There's something remarkable about how connected you are. You know what's happening, who's where, who feels what, at least on the surface. You stay updated. You respond quickly. You keep up. You know how it feels to check your phone while thinking. Another notification. Nothing new, but the body still leans forward. You know how it feels to feel close to someone you don't actually know. A creator's voice in your ears. A face that shows up more often than your friends do. You know how it feels when an algorithm seems to understand you faster than the people in your life. Feeds that sense your mood. Content that mirrors your inner weather without asking anything back. And you know the exhaustion. The need to always be reachable. The pressure of constant emotional availability. At first, this feels like progress. More connection. More awareness. More contact. But then something subtle happens. Closeness becomes thinner. Attention scatters. Presence feels expensive. This is the core archetype of our time. The digitally overconnected, emotionally underfed self. Surrounded, stimulated, and quietly lonely. The more our devices sync, the more our hearts drift. Not because we don't care, but because closeness now competes with noise. And the question isn't whether social media changed us. It's what it quietly changed inside of us. Think, who do you feel emotionally close to without actually being known by them? Social media platforms train attention to move fast. Swipe, like, repost, reply, react, refresh. Neurologically, attention becomes shallow by necessity. The brain adapts to constant novelty by scanning instead of staying. Emotion, however, needs stillness. It needs time. Social media looks like engagement, constant motion, constant response. But the emotional signal weakens. Nothing lands long enough to be felt. What's lost isn't dramatic. It's structural. When attention fractures, emotion never finishes forming. Like a child beside a flickering firelight everywhere, warmth nowhere. The flame performs. It doesn't hold. Posts, likes, shares, mentions, replies, views, and notifications. Each delivers a small dopamine signal. Your brain learns to associate a connection with a reward, not a relationship. Pleasure replaces bonding. Attachment systems evolved for slow, reciprocal presence. Social media platforms offer stimulation without mutual risk. Outwardly, this looks like popularity or social ease. Internally, it feels strangely empty. The hidden cost. Dopamine trains the nervous system to crave connection without closeness. The child reaches for the fire again and again, but it's all spark. No heat. Being reachable all the time changes the body. The stress response never fully powers down. The nervous system stays alert, scanning for interruption. Attachment requires safety. Safety requires rest. Outwardly, you appear responsive and reliable. Internally, you feel tight, guarded, on call. The cruel lesson. When availability becomes obligation, intimacy starts to feel like a demand. The child learns, if I don't respond, I disappear. So the fire is kept small, controlled, never allowed to grow. How often do you confuse stimulation with closeness? Loneliness has risen alongside connectivity, not in spite of it. Modern reporting shows the same pattern again and again: more contact, less anchoring. Research on attention shows how fragmentation reshapes cognition. Burnout becomes chronic. Focus becomes rare. Thinkers across tech culture have warned about this quietly. That conversation gets replaced by convenience. That metrics crowd out meaning. That constant engagement erodes trust in inner signals. The loss isn't dramatic. It's gradual. You start missing a version of yourself you can't quite locate. The one who could sit without reaching. The one who could feel deeply without distraction. Common patterns emerge. Appearing calm while internally overloaded. Being digitally present while emotionally absent. Feeling connected while lacking intimacy. Avoiding silence because it exposes emptiness. Confusing visibility with belonging. Grief shows up quietly. As numbness. As irritability. As a vague sense that something essential slipped away. The more our devices sync, the more our hearts drift. And the self that once knew how to linger fades into the background. When did focus start to feel difficult instead of natural? Healing here isn't disconnection. It's repair. Attention is a finite resource. Where it goes, the nervous system follows. Growing up in alert-driven environments teaches the inner child that love is conditional. That response equals worth. This leaves an emotional shadow, numbness, irritation, a constant sense of almost connection. Reclaiming begins with noticing, not deleting everything, not retreating from the world, but asking honest questions. Where does connection nourish, and where does it extract? Who has default access to your attention? When did availability become an obligation? Conversation repairs what metrics flatten. Presence rebuilds what performance erodes. This is not about purity. It's about pacing. Connection and solitude. Technology and boundaries. Responsiveness and rest. Nervous system repair happens slowly. Through fewer interactions held with care. Through voice when possible. Through silence that isn't empty. No dramatic transformations. No overnight clarity. Just a gradual warming. The fire doesn't need to go out. It needs space to grow steadily again. How might closeness feel if safety didn't require constant monitoring? Social media didn't break you. It trained you. Trained your attention, your expectations, your sense of closeness, your sense of worth. You were never meant to live at the speed of the feed. You're allowed to protect your attention and stay human. Synced apart exists for slowing the feed down enough to feel again. Where could you risk being present instead of perfect? If this felt familiar, the pull of connection alongside the quiet ache of distance. Like and share with someone who might recognize themselves here. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to continue exploring attention, presence, and real human engagement, so you never have to navigate this alone. This isn't about fixing you. It's about slowly, quietly reclaiming yourself.